Hey, Jellybean, so before your mom bought you your first kit, did you even have an idea what you wanted to play? Or was there another instrument that you had in mind at the time?
Well, no, not at that time. Mind you, I was like 11, 12 years old. And during the ages of 11 and 12, my mom would buy me a drum set for Christmas, but it would be those old paper toy drum sets. So I would get them Christmas Day, but by Christmas night, they would tore up, and then I'd go back to beating on her coffee table and pots and pans and stuff. So she got tired of that crap. So when I turned 13, after we moved here to Minnesota, I turned 13, she bought me a drum. She finally bought me a drum set I couldn't tear apart. And it had actual heads on it. I mean, it wasn't professional, but it had heads and stuff like these that you couldn't rust in and all that.
Yeah.
So then I began to kind of teach myself, and so she saw that I was serious about it, so she said, okay, well, if you're serious about it, I'm gonna get you some drum lessons. So I said, well, cool, okay. Now, mind you, only problem with drum lessons is that when you're a little kid, a little black kid in the city going to school, and you got to be at school by 8 o'clock, Monday through Friday, well, the last thing you want, which I found out, is have an 8 o'clock drum lesson on Saturday morning. So I did it about 6 months, and then I finally told my mom, I said, well, Mom, he's not teaching me, he was teaching me all the Jerry Lewis rock and roll beats and stuff, which is cool. He's kind of teaching me how to read, drum beats and all that. But I want to learn James Brown and Tower Power and Sly Stone and all that stuff. And the way I was learning that was at home, woodshed to the record player. So that's how, I started doing that. Then I had to get down drum lessons, and that's how I learned that. So I always say I'm basically self-taught. I don't count 6 months of drum lessons that much because I didn't really learn that much.
So those drum lessons didn't really play a part in it?
They really didn't play my part in my development, Now maybe I would have got, more into the rudiments and all that kind of shit, But I ended up learning the street way in the first place. I get kids ask me all the time, which actually for guitar and drums, and they want me to teach them. Well, I'm self-taught.
Now you know it too.
I'm self-taught, so it's kind of hard for me to show them. It's the street way instead of the technical way. And that's how I learned.
So as you were playing progress, did you start noticing who you wanted to, who you admired, who you wanted to be like?
Yeah. As I got older, I started admiring different drummers. Now, mind you, like I said, when my mom moved here in '68 from Chicago, the black radio in Chicago was like, 24/7. When I moved here, in Minnesota, the black radio station was only on for 4 hours, KUXL. And it was like on from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to like 5. And then let me listen to all the white rock stations. So that made me get into Three Dog Night, and, Black Sabbath, Black Oak Arkansas, Tommy Aldridge, kind of drummers and stuff. And then I already had the black thing going. I had, the Clyde Stubblefield and Jumbo Starks and the James Brown thing, and then Gregory Rico from Sly, and then David Garibaldi from, And then, as I got older and stuff, around 16, 17, I really got into the fusion drummers. And my favorite at that time was Lenny White, from Return to Forever. And I never forget going downtown Orchestra Hall and seeing Return to Forever. And I'd never seen anybody play drums like that, And then I never forget too, I had to be like 18, 19 years old, and Billy Cobham had a fusion band. He brought a fusion band here to the State Theater. And that's the first time I seen the drummer, man, play. They gave him a solo, and he played that shit for like 30 minutes. Wow. And it was just, I was blown away. I mean, the shit he was doing, I was like, how the hell is he doing that? And he was surrounded by drums. He had double bass and octobans and just he never did the same thing twice. So it really, it really messed me up too. So I was into the fusion drummers, and then we started, that led me on to the funky thing.
And was that, when you saw people playing drums like that, was that something you envisioned yourself doing, or it just inspired you to do more?
It was a little both. I knew I wanted to do that, but it inspired me. It helped me practice and try to get better at my craft, to see people that, because we figured they did something, they had to practice to do something to get like that, It had to be something you just don't learn how to play drums like that. And I've learned too that there's a lot of people, you know, there's some great teachers, but there's some teachers that can't teach you. Either, you know, it's either there or it's not, you know. Sometimes you can develop it, but it's hard, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so being that you had started playing, you got the upgraded kit, did all this happen before you met Morris, or did this happen after you had met guys?
Well,
and became friends and stuff?
I met Morris when we were like 11, 12 years old. Me and him had a mutual friend. His name was Ronald Reinhardt. He was a guitar player. And he was 13, and he impressed me and Morris both because he had the Jimi Hendrix thing going. So we would practice at his mom's house, you know, in the basement. But his mom was scary as hell, you know. So, so we would. It was over there, over Norfolk, across the street from Lincoln High School and stuff. And she had a room, you know. We practiced like from 4 to about 8 o'clock. Cause when she got home at 8 o'clock, all noise had to cease. And you hear it, right? You know, she get into the house, right? And so we'd have, whatever the hell we was doing, if we hadn't done it between the hours between 3, 4 to 8, it wasn't gonna get done, because she was not playing. So, but anyway, you know, me and Morris, you know, we liked the double drum thing. I don't know why I don't know if the Allman Brothers or something, you know, Allman Brothers had the double drum thing back then. But me and Morris was kind of into that. And plus you know, Morris is a natural left-hander. And I taught myself how to play left-handed. So it made sense, you know, so.
Was that because you saw him doing that, or you?
No, no, and that's the thing, you know, a lot of people think that, you know, but no, it just happened that way. When I was teaching myself, I didn't know I was teaching myself the wrong way. I didn't, you know, and that's the thing, because it just felt natural to me that way now, you know. And it's funny too, you know, because, you know, I get asked to, you know, here in Minneapolis when I would be here in town and stuff, people ask me to play all the time, but I always turn it down because I don't want to turn people's drum set around and shit. I played, you know,
yeah.
But it turned around, man, and it's hard. It's hard, you know, for me to do that. So.
Now going back to Morris, how did you meet Morris?
Well, that's how I met Morris, you know, Reinhardt, yeah, Reinhardt, and we grew a great friendship and stuff through that and stuff. And like I said, I used to haul my drums. You know, his mom worked till 10 o'clock, kind of like my mom. My mom worked for the post office for 30 years. His mom would get home around 10 o'clock, so we'd have all afternoon, you know, after we get out of school. You get out of school about 3 or 4, and I'd walk my drums over there to his house. We just saw that the other day.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit about the walk.
See, when you like, you know, my friend Bobby Vandell was telling you, when you're young, you know, when it comes to drums, you'll do that, you know, you'll haul them and all that shit. So anyway, I used to literally, when I was 13, I used to walk my drums over there to his house, man, from 1506 Vincent to, he was staying right across the North Commons, and over in North Side of the Hood and stuff. And it would take me sometimes 2 to 3 trips, but I would do it. But you know, I figured once I got him there, I could leave him there, because his mom was cool about letting us leave. See, she had the same rule, you know, you guys can play until I come home.
Yeah.
And then when I get home, y'all gotta stop, you know. So, and plus it's dark too, so you know, she's not gonna be messing with the neighbors and shit. So then me and Morris, you know, between that with Reinhardt and us doing that, you know, that's how we kept forming friendship.
So she supported, like we talked before in the past about how parents support their kids, whether it be the mom, the dad, or both, but they support you. Their support what led to all this, because if you didn't have the support.
Well, see, my mom was cool as hell, you know, because my dad, you know, was in Chicago and they had split up. And my stepdad, we had a kind of strained relationship still, but my mom was good about, you know, letting me do things about music, and she knew I was into music and stuff, man. Like, you know, so she would take me to concerts, man. I was like 15, 16 years old, and at the old Met Stadium, she'd take me out there and drop me off and say, have your ass, you know, when it gets around midnight, I could stay till midnight. So, and you know, a lot of the concerts back then was past midnight. But I knew I had to have my ass back down. I had to be down there, you know, because she's gonna pick me up. I'm gonna pick you up, you know, like, you know, like 15, 14, 15, pick you up. You know, you better have your ass out here so we can get back in the car and go back home.
And you go to the concert by yourself.
And I go to the concert by myself. I seen Kiss 1976. I seen Kiss. I had to be the only black person in the whole damn arena, man. It was, and I'd never seen no shit like that before, man. They came out the floor. That's how, Cool Kiss was.
Yeah.
They came out the floor, and I was just shocked. And like I said, I had to be the only black person in there, black kid in there watching this shit, but I was hooked, I think Rush opened for him. Let you know how crazy it was.
Yeah.
Rush and Kiss, man, it's just, and I was into the drummers, because, they drummer with 25 feet up in the air, and he had all this thick twirl and shit, like Tommy Aldridge and all that, so. It was a spectacle.
So going to those concerts was.
That was a part of my musical development.
Yeah.
Yes,
And you wanted to go to those concerts after hearing them when you got to Minnesota?
Yeah, when I got to Minnesota, when I got here from Minnesota,
Yeah.
That's how I got into, like I said, that's how I got into the white rock business when I got here. If I had to stay in Chicago, I'd been totally different, because I'd been more R&B than I am. I probably knew about the white rockers, but not quite as much.
Not as much. Yeah. So with all that, what led to your first band?
Oh, wow.
First time you got together and formed a band and you guys played songs.
Well, that's what I think. With my heart, that's the first time we actually played a few house parties. We wasn't no older, about 13, 14.
Wow.
And we played these little house parties, And you gotta remember here in Minnesota, if you was black, you couldn't play the clubs. You couldn't. It was hard. So we could always play the black sororities and stuff like that, hotels, Thunderbird Hotel and all that. That's what flight time, we were 15, 16, 17, that's what we did. We got hired by one white club here. These years ago, we had to be like 16, 17 years old. And then flight time got hired to play the Old Flame Bar downtown, man. And it was crazy. That's where I got my name Jellybean from, because we was in there. He hired us, and he knew we was doing some illegal shit because it was two sides. One side was funk and all that. The other side was country band. So, so we'd be in there, and it'd be like 6, 7 nights a week, and that we cut teeth doing that. So that's what Flight Time did, man, from the ages from like 15, 16, 17, 18. And now, we got to be 18, 19. Cynthia got hired by, Lips Incorporated and did that Funky Town.
Yeah.
She was the first one of us to really make it.
So the Flight Time band was playing those gigs.
Yeah, we were playing all the sororities and stuff like that. We wanted to play the clubs, but it was the same old story. You go to the club owners and you bring them your cassette or whatever, and you play and shit. And I never forget they told, and I think it was Terry and one of the guys that told me one time, if we get a couple more white guys in there, man, maybe we'll hire you,
Yeah.
But we got past that after a while, because we still, even with the black clubs like the Nakarima here, we had a club called the Nakarima. My friend Bobby was just teasing me about that because him and his girl at the time were the only white people that would be in there. That's some true shit, man. Wait till that's hood. It's hood, man.
Yeah. Now, being that you guys were young and you had to get your equipment around, how did you get your
We had a whole, anybody that knows Flight Time, we went through like 2 or 3 buses. We had old school buses, and we would first off, we would gig, I'll show you, we didn't get enough gigs to even buy a damn bus. And we went through 2 or 3 of them. We blow the engine out in one and have to get rid of it and get another one. One of them, I remember we painted it fire engine red and you flight time on it and all that shit. But yeah, we get these buses, these school buses, and we take out the first 4 or 5 seats in the back, and then we could put all our shit in. We even used to carry our own PA during the days. We had our own PA, amps. I had a big ass drum set, because all the money we would make, we would take it, for individually, we would put it back in the band, buy instruments and stuff. Buy the bass, Terry, big ass acoustic bass amp. Whoever we had playing guitars had nice amps, maybe a Marshall or something like that. I had big wraparound drum sets, all the kind of
As you were, from the beginning, starting off with your smaller kit, did you just keep adding to your kit, or did you were able to pick up something that you wanted along the way?
Well, as I got to be a kid and I got jobs, I had a job at 15, 16, 17 years old. And there was a drum shop down in Minneapolis called Dahlgren's. And so, I would go in there and just look, like a kid, you see different things you wanted and stuff, and so, damn. So I got to work to get this, this 22-inch ride. I got to work to get this cymbal or a drum set in there. And between that and then the money we was making lifetime for playing, sororities and stuff like that. That's how I acquired it. And I looked up, I had a pretty big ass drum set at a young age.
Yeah. So all this that you're talking about was pretty much just self-taught. You just listen to the song and practice it as you heard it.
Yeah. I pretty much I called the woodshed at the stereo. My mom had one of the old long stereo. I'm sure if you were a kid, you had the long stereo with the cassette. Some of them had TV.
Yeah.
Stereo was on TV. But we had one of those, man, and I would spend literally hours just laying there on the floor and put my record, my vinyl, vinyl was the thing back then. And the various vinyl records, man. I would just sit there and just listen. And then when Mom was at work, I'd go down to the basement and get on my drums and try to emulate that stuff.
So now, one of the things that I know you're known for is the playing in the pocket.
Yeah.
Did that come naturally, or was that something that you really worked on?
Well, I worked on it because, when I was listening to all the fusion drummers, they were busy. And so, when you get up caught listening to that kind of stuff, you get busy like that. I liked all the Lenny White and Billy Cotton, all that. Well, then, both hands, dancing and stuff. And I never forget, man, when I joined the time, and I still had some of that, even though me and Morris, they kind of, knew. I never forget Chris say, "Bing, just crack it, 2 and 4." Don't do, because I was so used to, doing the little extra shit on the snare and all that. So I had to literally deprogram myself to stop doing this. So, but I grew up actually learning all that fusion shit. That's how drummers was. And then, at first, when I first started playing drums, I was doing the traditional, where it's like, you heard the snare drums like this and then that. And then as I got more into the fusion drummers and I saw them, it was more match driven. So I learned how to do shit, match driven. And in hindsight, I probably could have kept both going, but after a while, that's just everything, especially when drumming time was just match.
Yeah. Now, when you guys started doing more gigs and playing more places, and we've all heard the stories of how Black Time and the time formed with Morris and being offered the deal, to bring it back. Now, with that time, did you know what was going on? Were you worried? Am I going to be kicked out of the band? Am I going to make this band?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I was disappointed. Me and Morris was tight and everything. He was disappointed here, but I was happy for him because he had did the shit with Prince. He had went out and was taping it and all that, and he gave him that song "Party Up." And Prince offered him a deal. I'll give you cash. I'll give you a deal. He said, "Well, I want to do the band." So he went and got the guys out of Flight Time, but the only problem was Morris was the drummer. That's the problem. So, and by this time, Flight Time, we had gotten pretty good because we had Alexander O'Neill singing, we had Suzanne, and we were gigging more, as I said, Flight Time was kind of vicious then, so, and Chris knew this, so he went back, and had them, had the famous meeting out there, I guess in Kentucky or whatever stuff, and Alex needed more people. You need a house, a car, and so whatever, because Prince was, by this time, Prince was heading toward controversy. The second album, "Wanna Be Your Lover," I turned it black and all that stuff. Anyway, so he had one of the brothers' total attention. So they had a meeting, and so Prince got up, walked out the meeting, and told the guys, told Morris and pulled Morris to the side, said, "Well, you sing." So you go back and get your other baby, and you sing. And Morris like, "Well, I don't want to sing. I want to play drums." It's funny too, because that first year when Chris was out, and I used to teach him, I said, "Morris, how come you're not the drummer?" And he said, I asked him, I said, "Man, why don't you let me put drums in bed?" He said, "I got a drummer." He had Bobby Z there. He said, "I got a drummer." So that's the thing.
So was Morris known to be a singer?
No, No, I mean, he would front the band every once in a while, like they had the Enterprise band pleasure. Every once in a while, he was subbing me in the time, and he would sit in. If he wasn't subbing, he would come and say, you know, like too hot, or something, you know, in the game too hot, or something like that. But he didn't really take singing that seriously. He did. He when he said that, he said that in the interviews and stuff. He wanted to do it. He did it because that's what we had grown up teaching us.
So now when you got the call, tell us a little bit about that call. Did they come to you or did they call you?
No, it's just like, you know, all these guys were my friends at this point, so, you know, they just came back and said, you know what, you know, Prince said, you can be the drummer. I was like, really? He said, yeah.
Were you relieved? Like,
I was relieved by letting them know that's my name. You know, I was trying to go, yeah, sure.
yeah.
But yeah, it was great, but I knew I had to up my game up now because, you know, I was going to be, you know, in this heavy band, you know, this different band. It's going to be totally different than these cover songs we were playing in clubs. It's going to be some different shit. And we were doing the rehearsal, man, 8 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So it started right away.
It started right away. He would not push. The principal was like a slave driver, man.
Yeah.
He would not push, you know.
So at that time, how many people had you played in front of them?
We had just played like an occasional nightclub. I remember when we, just before Press took us to that fateful gig, the first gig in Detroit at the Jellybean Johnson, we did a thing at the NAC, at Yassim's, you know, we had a rehearsal spot on the Lakers we called Yassim's. And this crazy dude named Leonard Richardson, man, he was mean as hell. He used to wear clogs and shit. Leopard claws, and he would not, man, we literally seen him knock a few dudes out cold. That's okay. He used to be a bouncer at one of the nightclubs, and he used to go to freaking stuff. So anyway, we were over there, and this is all in that cartoon that tells the road. But anyway, we would, you know, we'd be in there 7 days a week and stuff. So he had these tinny lamps in his club. And he had, you know, it was like a bar, but it was like, you know, it was like a clubhouse. So he had a machine where it was like, he had like fruit punch and different shit on it. But, you know, the guys in time, you know, they would do crazy shit. So they would be drinking his punch and stuff without paying for it, you know. And so one day he came back and he said, who been in my, who been in my punch machine? And he said, you know, we said, I don't know what you're talking about, man. What are you talking about? And then Jerome accidentally broke his titty. And so we knew that we could be killed for this. So they tried their damnedest to put it back together, tried to put it, you know, but it was wrong. You know, it looked like it, even though they did a good job in trying to, you know, piece it back together. But he came in there, man, and he seen that shit, and he went the hell off. And we already knew he was crazy. Yeah. So that was the end. You know, we had been in there about 6 months by then. So
that was the end of that.
So that was the end of that.
Now, was Prince there all that happened to you?
He was there some of the time. Yeah, he was there a lot of the time. Because we did actually a week before we got kicked out there in 2 weeks. We did a show there. You know, because, you know, Prince said we figured we were ready, so we invited all the hood rats to come see us, and they did.
You would come by and so there was more people in there than probably should have been.
There were more people than should have been. There was more black people in there than probably should have been. So, but it was cool. You know. Yeah. And that was our first. And then the next thing you know, he had us at Jellybean Johnson in front of 26,000 people. That's crazy. Yeah. Because by this time, you know, Get It Up was a hit. You know, Get It Up was all over the radio. And then there's a famous disc jockey in Detroit called Electrifying Mojo. I'm sure you probably heard of him. But that's who wrote Get It Up in Detroit. And
back when the DJs.
Oh man, he really, it was crazy, man. And I never forget, we went there. Detroit was our favorite city at the time because we were treated like literally rock stars there, man. I mean, we would go to the mall, we get mobbed. Mojo had us down at the radio station. And I never forget, he secretly brought us down there, and then he said on the radio that we were at the radio station, right? So within about 30 minutes, it was like thousands of people outside the radio station. And so it had, the radio station had these big, you know, glass windows, and they had curtains in front, right? So Mojo started messing with him. You know, he'd pull over the curtain and they'd see us and then he calls it. So they had to literally speak our ass out there. You know, we got to be
Yeah. So let's go back to when you found out you were in the band, everybody's, you know, you guys get ready. When you heard the songs, some of those songs were played with the drum machine and everything. Now, had you been playing both styles at the time? Were you used to that?
No, I had to get that was the other thing. That was kind of like that, being busy with the snare.
Yeah.
A lot of the time songs, if you go back and listen to them, a lot of them are famous drum machine songs.
Yeah.
So I had to emulate that shit, man. I've been doing that now 40 years, and trust me, it's no day at the beach. I never forget, we were rehearsing to go on the first tour, not the second tour, the Controversy tour. That's what time it was out.
Yeah.
77 something. So I never forget, sit down in Minneapolis Convention Center, and it was racing to like number 2. It had got like number 2. That was Champagne King was number 1 on Love Come Down, whatever. But me and Chris and Morris sat down in the drum set, and we was just like, how in the hell is Bean gonna play this in concert?
Yeah.
So we literally sat there, man, for about an hour before we even let the band rehearse and shit, and figure out how I was gonna play this so these guys can do 4 corners and all these crazy dances that they do to that.
So you figured that out on the spot?
We figured it out together.
But yeah.
Moore sat down, he went away at it, and I looked at some of the shit he was doing. And Prince sat down, and he was playing it the way he thought, and then I sat down. And after a while, we came to an agreement on the beat that I would play.
Yeah.
And that's what we used, man. And that's what it ended up being. But it's no day at the beach. You know?
Yeah.
That beach program I gave Garibaldi on top of. So.
Now you played that.
I've been playing in the concert before.
Yeah, but I've seen the old footage, and you played that song for at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, oh man, in the old days we used to play the whole song is like 8, 9, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So and then, in concert, you gotta spice it up, you gotta put breaks in there and all that kind of shit, that we did. So I had to learn all that, which was no fun either, but that's what you rehearse for. That's what the 8-hour rehearsals were about and stuff. I know Jimmy Jam was just so questionable, like a few months back, and he was talking about how Prince wrote him and Monty. When we first started doing it, the beat was already crazy enough. And so him and Monty were just playing their parts at the keyboards, right? And Prince said, he stopped the band. He said, no, you need to do the dance that the 3 guys, Jesse and Morris and Terry are doing. They were doing like the 4 corners. He made Monty and Jimmy do the 4 corners at their keyboards. Yeah. Now, mind you, they already octopus and shit, because, Jimmy was playing the shit in one hand, like just playing the bass part. He said, no, you gotta use both hands. So you need to play the chords along with Monty too, and you need to sing the harmonies, and you need to dance. So, and so them guys literally had to do that, man. So, that's when we came to see the original time. There was always some shit going on because, you got these guys dancing and singing. You got me, with the hair and shit, going crazy, and then you got the guys in front, and then Morris walking around acting cool and shit.
Yeah.
So it was crazy, man.
Those days you were rocking out on the kid.
After a while, I just told myself I wanted to play the shit more like a rock drummer versus, all my heroes, R&B heroes. No offense to them, but that's, And I think some of that too is watching the Revolution too, like, watching Bobby and stuff, how you had to play that. You had to be, powerful. You had to be powerful.
Yeah. And something else that I noticed we played, actually, I've been fortunate enough to be in on rehearsals and stuff. I noticed that you don't write nothing down. The changes, if somebody changes the song or the way that the set's gonna go, you don't write nothing down.
And and it's funny too, I'm glad you brought that up too, man, because in the time we didn't write shit down. And so when I joined the other band that Prince had me called Family, I got the Love to Family with him. I never forget being at rehearsal, and he got on me. He's like, baby, you're right, because about this time now, he was writing shit down. And see, I had never seen him do that before, And so he was right what he had to, because he had the revolution doing so much elaborate shit. He had to do it. But back in the early days, they didn't do that. You know, they were like us. You know, you came, you rehearsed shit, and you better remember it. And in his case, he was knocking them. At least we weren't getting knocked if we messed up. But he was knocking them, man. You know, 1, 2, 300. I was really watching him knock Bobby $200 in concert. He was laying on the floor in front of the stage, 120,000 people, and Bobby did something. And he said, $200. And you know, we don't want to, of course, the time is crazy. We roll with this shit because we know what that meant. You know? The crowd probably didn't know what we were talking about, but we knew what the hell that meant. You know? So, unbelievable. But yeah.
But that don't play part in, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a part of it,
played
but
a big part in my development and drumming and all that shit. You know, a lot of, like I said, some of the bad habits I got rid of them. I had to. Some of the good things I retained, you know. So yeah.
yeah. So now when you play the big stadiums, the big arena, and you know the big concerts, was there ever a time that you felt like, man, I'm a little nervous or?
Yeah. And I had to program myself to get out of that too, you know, because you used to, you know, to this day still, you know, I've been this shit 40 years. I still, you know, when you get in front of a crowd, I still feel that little rush and stuff. Yeah. But back then it was more intense, you know, because you didn't want to mess up.
Yeah.
You didn't want to, you know, mess up. So.
Now we know that you played songs for Vanity 6.
Yeah. That was,
did you get the equal time to practice those songs, or were?
No, he was, you know.
Give us a little detail on that.
That was some bullshit too, man. But you know, God bless Prince, he put us through it, you know. So he got the girls, you know, because remember the first year when I was us, Zap, and him. So then the second year was for the, you know, when What Time Is It out, he got the girls out and shit. So we got into it about it because now we're doing double duty. So, you know, and I never been to the first few concerts we did with them, man. Morris didn't have much to say about it, but the other guys, Jesse and Jim and Terry, were adamant, but we didn't want them to know it was time, you know. It was a big thing about it. We didn't want the time. So we literally had disguises, bro. Jesse would dress up like a fucking rabbi. Jimmy would have on a fucking, Jimmy would have on a preacher's robe. I would look like Huey P. Newton. I have a beret and sunglasses. And we literally did that the first, you know, because Prince had us play with him. You know, he had to do separate shows, so we were the band, but we didn't want to go to time back in the month. So finally, after we went through that a few times, he decided like he's gonna get this. He got this fishnet, big ass, gigantic fishnet curtain, man, pink with, you know, with netting,
yeah,
and we would be behind that. And so then when we went out on the road, that's what they were behind, you know. The time at the big ass, you know, ghetto ass curtain with the of our first album, you know, there. And then Vanity 6 had the fishnets with the pink netting and stuff. And we'd be back there, and that shit, some nights, man, would be so nasty and funky because Chris and Jesse would literally play the guitars. And I'd literally be just like screaming to myself because it would be so nasty. And nobody knew it was us. You know, they just hear that shit out front, percolating like that. But it's us back there killing it.
And it's funny that I don't know if anybody ever asked back then who was playing the music.
No, you know, I had a few people that, but you know, I would always tell them stuff. You know, it's funny too because that was one of the most disappointing times that we did that with them. Is we went to the major markets, which was New York and LA, and Prince would let the time play. And the absence of the injury, we had to bag up Vanity 6.
Yeah.
So, and mind you, this is the crazy thing about this, man, is, you know, you backstage before we go in over Vanity 6, and every famous bug you know is backstage because Prince is, you know, he's the king now.
Yeah.
So you got Magic Johnson, Sting, just anybody, Ricky Hughes, whoever is hanging out backstage. And we can't, you know, and then one or two is time will play, you know?
Yeah.
And so then, like, I never forget, I was walking the streets of New York that day after we played, like, Madison Square or whatever. And somebody noticed me, I said, bang, bang. man, how come y'all didn't play last night? I said, yeah, I played, but I was behind Vanity 6. No, I thought that was y'all. Damn. I said, yeah, well, you had to ask Chris why we didn't play. So,
Yeah. So now, with that, I had a question.
Well, and then the other thing I had to put that into, the other reason Press didn't want us to play, because we was whooping that ass all over the country too. That we was tearing his ass up. Well, that's the only thing we could get. We wasn't making no money. You know, so that was our only redemption, was to whoop that ass every night. And that's the first 2 tours, that's what happened. You know, so he got mad at me in later years when I said that publicly, but he knew it was true.
So now, as a drummer, all these years, who have you met along the way that you were like, wow, I can't believe I met as a drummer, another drummer, another?
Man, it's been so many, man, because I played the Grammys about 3 or 4 times, and that's when you really, when you go to the Grammys, that's when you see a lot of your heroes, you know. So you meet a lot of, and even the rockers, you know, the Tommy Aldrich's and Taylor Hawkins, and Dave Grohl, you know, from Foo Fighters, you meet all your heroes, you know. And I never forget it here, you know, Tom Parker, guys in Tom Parker, great friends of mine now, you know, and meet David Garibaldi, and I remember telling him, you know, how much me and Morris idolized him coming up, you know, and, you know, so, yeah, I've met a few of them, man, and, Ohio Players drummer, me, Diamond, me, him, Larry Blackman from Cameo, and I think I'm leaving somebody, me, him, Larry Blackman from Cameo. There's one other guy that we were in, you know, my drummer years ago and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's always been good. Oh, Jerome Brady, Bigfoot from P-Funk, yeah. Yeah, so, you know, just meeting them guys and having their respect today, you know, it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been with you.
Oh, yeah, you've been with me.
Yeah,
That's about it.
and to see.
It's like I've known him all my life.
Yeah, then to see him, he was excited to see you.
Yeah.
So you see the
And you know,
visual.
it's funny here, man, you know, especially, you know, I love Diamond to death, man, but, you know, I cannot tell you how many times I play the guitar. I want to be free, you know, and, you know, we got our drum legend here, Michael Bland and stuff, you know, Michael would play that shit note for note, man. It was just crazy to know, you know, I watch Diamond play that shit, and then I come home, jam with them, and then Michael's playing that, you know, note for note. Yeah. This is crazy.
So now as a drummer, you've been through some of the biggest concerts and played along beside the biggest names. What recommendations would you have for drummers coming up that are either just starting out or been in the game and getting frustrated because things aren't working out right now?
Oh man, well, the game has changed so much, man. So, you know, you just have to be true to your craft and believe in it, man. And, you know, and just go for it. That's the thing. It's not gonna be easy. I had a lot of heroes coming up, you know, and it helps to have big ears and to, you know, listen, you know, and take in everything and just go for it, man. That's all you can do. I get a lot of young kids ask me this, man. And, you know, I'd be honest with them sometimes. I say, this, you know, music ain't for everybody. You know, and you pretty much know if you get into it, and you pretty much know if you're driven to learn shit, then you know it's for you. If not, then it's not for you. I've learned that. You know, I've done that with like relatives, like you know, like with nieces and nephews and stuff. I've gotten them, kids, give them lessons and stuff. And you know, $6 a pop, and then a year later they're still in the same spot. You know, it's not for you. You know, and it might be heartbreaking for them. Their heart might really be in it, but it's just not. You know, so. Yeah.
Now, I have another question. What would you recommend at the same time that they should be learning the business as well as their instrument?
Jeff, that's a whole nother story.
You know.
Jeff, you getting into some stuff now.
I think it'd be good to maybe just say that it might be a good idea to learn the business at the same time.
I will say that. I'll put that out there. Now, I'm different than most people because I've literally grown up working for friends all my life. And the whole thing is, you know, it can be cool working for your friends, but make sure the business end is together. Make sure, because if not, you're gonna find yourself in a lot of heartache along down the line, because you know the friendships, man, come and go, you know, and money changes people. And I've seen it up close and personal too many times in my life. You know, even now, you know, money changes people. So always take care of business and stuff. You know, it's hard. And you know, and when you love music so much, you don't think about that. When you roll in the shit and the money's coming in and you probably ain't getting your fair share. It depends on who's in the band with you. Black bands are notorious for that, you know, it'd be 8, 9, 10 of them, only 3 of them making money and stuff. You know, so just make sure that end is taken care of, man. And it's hard, you know, because you will burn some bridges along the way, especially if there's millions of dollars involved. You will burn some bridges, you will have to. Otherwise, you will find yourself, you know, on Social Security and no job. And wondering you put in all these years of work and you don't see the fruits of it that you should.
So, why don't you get any websites or social media you'd like to get out there?
Oh yeah. Well, I just, for one, thanks to my managers, Jeff Luna and Marty Bragg and James Popeye Grill, I'm on a new journey right now. I have a new album called Get Experience by the Jellybean Johnson Experience. I have a website, jellybeanjohnson.com, that you can go and get all my stuff. I have 3 singles out. First one was Put Some Jelly on It. Second is Let Me Shine On. And the third one is She Can Get It. She Can Get It is kind of like New York meets Minneapolis. My boy Law and Tony Mosley from New Power Generation and Monty Boy. One of the most funkiest white boys on the planet, Monty Boy. Long time free. So yeah, that kind of stuff. I'm on Facebook too. I have like 2 or 3 pages on there. The Jellybean Johnson page, my Gary Johnson page with 2 hours is the one that I answer. My managers answer all the pages that you see various pages in the home. So, and that's you got to have a social media thing these days, otherwise all is lost. Even though I don't tweet like in the middle of the night like the president did. I don't do that, but yeah.